Okay. Is everybody seeing that? And okay, I think we're ready to get started. We're just a couple minutes after noon here. Thanks everybody for joining. Uh, November edition of the statewide lab advisory meeting. So for this month, Sandra Dolan with Nebraska DHHS has agreed to speak a little on some enteric outbreak investigations. And then I have just a couple of additional investigations of note that I'll just talk about quickly. And then we can get into the roundtable. Then some updates on the training that's been out and is coming out. And then we'll conclude. So, Sandra, are you with us?
Yes, just give me a moment to figure out how to share my screen, get my presentation up, and we'll do that. Just give me one moment. Let's Give me 1 second. I'm figuring it out.
Yeah, I was having some issues to start as well. Okay, that looks
Okay.
good.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. So I was asked to kind of give just a kind of broad summary of our summer enterics cases and what outbreaks have occurred during this time. Um, I usually I will probably be giving updates from like May to October. I know October isn't technically summer, but since we have that data, I might as well let you guys in on that. So here we have the number of enteric cases in 2025 so far. We had our peak in July. Oh, oh no, the timer is on. That's gotta be bad. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me turn that off. Oh no. Well, I apologize about that, guys. So I might have to do some back and forth here. We had our peak in July was 495 cases, and in August was 442 cases. Activity slowed down in September, but activity is starting to pick up again in October. So piggybacking off the previous slide, here is the number of enteric cases for the last 5 years. 2025 has followed the trend, but more we've had more cases in July and August than previous years. And September was a slower month than previous years. So May through October, we have Shigella, vibriosis, and Yersinia cases by month. Again, sorry about the auto switching. I wasn't able to turn that off. Shigella, we had 45 cases, Vibrio, 8 cases, and Yersinia non-pestis, 31 cases. We had our peak in August. So next we have the different E. coli's. We saw peak activity in July and August. For sugar toxin producing E. coli, we had 138 cases. For the enteropathogenic E. coli, we had 647 cases. Last year, we had 570 in that time frame, just for comparison. For enterotoxigenic E. coli, we had 89 cases. In the enteroaggregative E. coli, we had 163 cases. So next, moving on to norovirus. Um, so May through October is considered the off season for norovirus, and you can kind of see the graph kind of represent that. November to April is norovirus season. We did see activity start to pick up in October. I do want to take this time just to give a reminder that if you are sending specimens to the NPHL to have the requisition form and the stool collection container labeled with the patient name, date of birth, and collection date. If the specimen is not labeled, NPHL would not be able to test it. So now going over the number of Campylobacter cases, I also have 2024 on here just for comparison. From May to October, we had 408 cases compared to 405 in 2024. We had a bit of a busier summer for Campylobacter. We saw peak activity in July was 111 cases. So next we have the number of Salmonella cases, not including the typhi, paratyphi. From May through October, we had 245 cases, with peak activity in July was 57 cases. In 2024, we had 276 just to kind of compare. So it's been a kind of slower year. So moving on to the parasite groups, we have Cryptosporidium, Cyclospora, and Giardia. Notice the 29 cases of Cyclospora in July and 15 in August. This is the highest number of cases of Cyclospora in the past several years. This was due to multiple different outbreaks, and activity peaked in July. So now that I've gone through a bunch of numbers, let's talk about the outbreaks. So for Nebraska outbreaks from May through October, we had 3 norovirus, 2 cyclospora, and 1 unknown. That 1 unknown, no samples were able to be collected at that time, so we couldn't verify. So the noroviruses, we had assisted living, a long-term care facility, and a child care. Both cyclosporas were with Mexican-style restaurants, with cilantro being the main suspect. Every person who went to these restaurants had the salsa, which contained cilantro. Then moving on to multi-state outbreaks from May to October, we had 6 salmonella outbreaks and one E. coli outbreak. For salmonella outbreaks, they kind of focused a lot of different serotypes. So we had a backyard poultry outbreak with 4 Nebraska cases, and that was out of 559 U.S. cases. We have pet geckos, which is still ongoing. We have 1 Nebraska case, and currently in the United States, there's 49 U.S. cases. And then we had 2 different salmonella outbreaks to shelled eggs. One was, first one, we had 2 Nebraska cases and 27 U.S. cases. And then the second one was linked to Sunshine Yolk Country Eggs, which is 1 Nebraska case and 95 U.S. cases. And then one of the more recent ones, we have another salmonella linked to leafy greens. Most likely it was spring mix. And we had 1 Nebraska case and 35 U.S. cases. And then we had 1 E. coli outbreak, which the source was unknown. And that is the main summary of the multi-state outbreaks from May to October. I know I went kind of fast, but if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. Uh, yeah, the cilantro. Um, does anyone have any questions for Sandra about those enteric outbreaks? Okay, if not, I'm gonna. Oh, I'm having issues. So I just got a couple of things here. Some New information. Here we go. Okay, so over the weekend, kind of going into the weekend, the CDC released an alert. There's an infant botulism outbreak, and it's linked to this By Heart Whole Nutrition infant formula. I think on Saturday they started recalling the product. Um, can I move forward here? There's been 13 illnesses, all of them hospitalized, no deaths, fortunately. Um, like I said, it's multi-state. Here are all the states here we could see, and so people were buying this in the stores and online. So I wanted to bring this up just in case some people might um, field calls about suspected botulism. There are resources. The CDC has resources to get a hold of if any physicians are suspecting this infant botulism. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up. So the outbreak in the DRC is ongoing. I know we heard about this one uh, a while ago. I just wanted to kind of send a reminder to everyone that it's still going. And as of November 5th, which was last Wednesday, was the most recent updates I was able to find. There are 64 confirmed or probable cases and 45 deaths. There are a lot vaccinated against the Ebola, and interestingly, there's been 16 outbreaks since 1976. But I bring this up again just to kind of remind you, if you haven't, to dust off your high consequence infectious disease procedures. Make sure everything's in line there because the odds are never zero that, this could show up. And so that's pretty much it for my little soapbox there. Anyone have any questions? Okay. We'll go ahead and move into the roundtable then. Starting up top with our hospital acquired illness team. Is someone available to give us an update for
Yeah,
you?
I'm on, Ben. It's
Hey, Lacey.
Lacey. Hey. Um uh, for the HAI updates, we have continued to work on a current Candida auris investigation. And so we have one that is ongoing and two that we have closed this year. The current investigation that we're working on, um, hopefully we just had a recent new case, so it's still unfortunately still continues to go on. So we will continue to monitor cases and stuff like that. But just as a reminder that if you do have any isolates, like from a lab standpoint, um, please be sending those to NPHL for further testing. And I think Ben talked last time about how there can be some issues with interpreting some with different pieces of lab equipment. There can be some issues with misidentification of CORs. So if you have any concerns about that at all, please reach out to NPHL. They can help with that. So there was also um, we had a notification of a outbreak that's going on, a multi-state outbreak of OXA-23 carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter beyond, and an NDM Enterobacter. They're seeing those cases in the same patient, and they've seen them in 3 different states. So just a reminder that if you're seeing any of those carbapenem-resistant organisms, again, please forward them on. We will do additional testing on any carbapenem resistant isolate that meets the criteria that NPHL has and do whole genome sequencing on those. The crab sequencing is a little different, or the testing for that, where we don't do an MSIM on any crab isolates. So it goes straight to carba R, but a carba R also won't catch an OXA-23. It only has OXA-48 on that panel. So the only real way to know if one of these crab isolates is positive for an OXA-23 is, for us, we do whole genome sequencing, but there's also testing available in Minnesota if we need it. So just continue to be on the lookout for those. Do anything to add to that, Ben, from like a lab standpoint?
No, you did a pretty good job covering everything. If you ever have a question about, whether to submit an isolate or not, you can call us up and, we can talk about it. Um, but
For
yeah.
sure. Yeah, so I think that's it.
Yeah, great. Thank you,
Thank you.
Lacey.
Yeah.
Any questions for Lacey and the HAI team? Okay, we'll move on. Is Derek on today?
Yep, I'm here, Ben.
Hey, Derek.
Hey, so good afternoon slash morning, everyone. Overall, and just real quick summary, activity for COVID, flu, and RSV is pretty low still. To put some numbers behind that with our influenza test positivity for the week ending the 8th of November. So this is preliminary data, so it might change a little bit, but likely not significantly. So for that week, for influenza test positivity is still under 1%. To put that in a little context, last surveillance season, when we typically, in additional previous surveillance seasons, when we see influenza peak, it tends to be in the 20 to 30% positivity range. So that kind of tells you how low it is right now. Same for RSV. Our positivity is roughly 1%. I think it's right now it's in at 1.1. But when we usually see peak RSV, that test positivity kind of not quite as high as flu, but is in that 15 to 20% range usually. So that's good news for right now. Just because those viruses are low now doesn't mean we're not seeing any activity in respiratory virus world right now. We're actually seeing increases in para-influenza virus positive tests, and also continue to see rhino and enterovirus lab positives increase. So specifically with para-influenza viruses, there's types 1 through 4, and we do track those on a week-to-week basis. And right now, we've seen mostly para-influenza 1 and 2, with roughly a 2-to-1 ratio compared to the paraflu types 2 to paraflu types 1. So a lot of number there. So sorry if that was a little confusing. But one thing I wanted to call out specifically with para-influenza 1 and 2, that those specific viruses can commonly be associated or cause croup, if I believe I'm pronouncing that right, especially in children. So I just wanted to highlight that, being able to call that out with our data. Other than that, just some routine reminders on specimen submissions as the season kind of picks up. I know not a lot of flu, RSV, and COVID going around quite yet, but that will soon pick up, I imagine, especially with the holidays right around the corner. Um, Also wanted to point out that highly pathogenic avian influenza detections in wild birds and poultry flocks are increasing across the country. So just keep that in mind, and that kind of strengthens the importance of being alert for influenza A and subtypable positives at your facilities. If you were to get one of those, please notify us or the MPHL team immediately so we can try to get that specimen to MPHL for further subtyping. I think that is all I have for right now, but happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Derek. Next up is enteric outbreaks. Sandra, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I have a
Okay.
couple things. For the botulism with the formula, we will be sending out a press release later today. So that they'll be sending out. We will also probably potentially be sending it out as a HON as well. So that's out there. Um, in the last week, we've had two new outbreaks. So this is after the October, so November. We've had two suspect norovirus outbreaks, and one of the norovirus outbreaks at child care center. Also, another child tested for adenovirus. So we have a positive noro and adenovirus there. And then we have a retirement facility and they have a norovirus outbreak as well. So norovirus is definitely starting to pick up. So again, I just want to remind everyone to um, properly label the specimen containers when sending those in if you're sending them to NPHL. And that's all the updates I have for now.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. Okay, we'll move on to arbovirus. Thought I switched to vector-borne disease, but I'll just switch that back. Jeff, are you with us?
Hi, Ben, I'm here.
Hey.
Yeah, hello everyone. So, on the vector-borne front, we're coming into kind of that lower risk period of the year as we get into the colder weather months here. I'll start mosquito-borne wise. I would say any local transmissions, say of any mosquito-borne diseases like West Nile virus, it's pretty going to be pretty minimal now. We've had cold temperatures, mosquito activity should really be almost zero at this point. So most of our risk is going to be from people traveling overseas, acquiring tick-borne, or excuse me, mosquito-borne diseases such as malaria. That's our second most reported mosquito-borne condition. And this year, we're seeing another pretty high year. Last year was our highest in, a number of years, I think since the 40s or 50s, if I'm remembering right, based on records that I could find. We had like 18 cases last year. This year, we're up to 15, and we still have, a little bit over a month left to go in this 2025 year. So, that's something to kind of keep an eye on for people that report travel. Particularly to sub-Saharan Africa. That's where most of our cases report travel to. However, we do have occasions where people will report travel to South America or Central America, where malaria is still endemic, as well as parts of Asia. So just some things to kind of keep in mind there. This year, we've seen a lot less dengue. Last year, we had 10 cases of dengue, which was a high number for us in quite some time. But this year, we've only had one reported case, and that's probably due to a slowdown in terms of the dengue cases that were circulating in parts of Central and South America. Last year, we had a very high number of cases, and it was circulating pretty heavy there. But this year, a little bit less circulation of the virus there, so we haven't seen near the number of cases like we did last year, which is a good thing. And so yeah, so the main things will be mostly on those travel related cases, those for those mosquito-borne diseases. West Nile virus here locally though, over our transmission season, very low. Right now we're at 51 cases. This will be the lowest number of cases we've had since 2020. So a very low year. We actually had a decent number of West Nile circulating in our mosquito population, particularly out in the western portion of the state, but we just didn't see the human cases materialize, which, is likely because we had an outbreak out in the western part of the state in 2023. So there's probably still some human immunity out that way. So that probably really kind of helped protect us against seeing more cases from out that way. Switching over to tick-borne. Now, so the main things with tick-borne, again, we're coming into that colder period of season. Most of our ticks have gone dormant, such as our dog ticks, Lone Star ticks. However, our deer ticks, aka the black-legged tick, the one that's primarily responsible for most of the Lyme disease transmission, there is a second peak of adults, and actually this is actually the highest peak in terms of when adults are active is here October and November. So even though it's cold out and we had a little bit of snow in some parts of the state, once that snow melts and we warm back up again here this week, where those ticks are located at, they'll definitely become active again. So just something to keep in mind. Looking at our total case or our cases this year, our ehrlichiosis cases are kind of trending what we'd normally expect. We have 18 cases there, which is very similar to last year. We had 17. Probably the big thing is tularemia. Again, we're having another high year. Last year was our highest ever with 27 cases. This year we have 23 cases. A little bit different compared to last year, whereas last year we had a lot of cases that onset in the late fall here, due to mostly it seems like exposure due to some sort of working out in the yard or working in the dirt, so kind of aerosolization type activities. This year, not so much of that. Most of it was more kind of we expect, more tick-borne related or being out in tick habitats, and occurred during the primary tick transmission season. With that said, though, we have had several positive cats that have been confirmed to have tularemia here just over the last several weeks. So even though our primary transmission season, with ticks and stuff is over, it does seem to still be kind of circulating out there in the environment. So, it's one of the things to kind of keep an eye on, that it's still circulating in the environment, which means, there is that potential for some aerosolization activities, especially now with people doing yard work, cleaning up of leaves and whatnot there. So something to kind of keep track of. And then alpha gal, right now we're sitting, again, this is our first year reporting that. We have 24 cases. We'll be adding a couple more to that based on some investigations that were finished up last week. So we'll be seeing some more cases there. It's hard to really say, we have 1 year worth of data. And some of these cases, would have been picked up in prior years. It's just they were being repeatedly tested, and we happen to be picking them up this year. So not really, can't say much with just 1 year of data with alpha gal. And so we'll kind of see that as we add more years to that data set. But other than that, the last thing I want to mention is we'll be sending out a health alert here. There's been some updates to tularemia treatment guidelines, and so we'll be sending out a health alert here to folks, just to kind of remind them that there has been a recent update from CDC, and that was published in an MMWR shortly before the governmental shutdown. So just be on the lookout. That'll be coming out here hopefully soon. And I think that's it, Ben.
Say, Jeff, this is Pete. We recognize, of course, in the public health lab, all the cats that have come up positive with tularemia. And I know there were a number of human exposures to those cats. Do you follow up with those human exposures, or is that some other group that's taking care of that?
Our local health departments follow up with those. They try to get a hold of them and let them know. Yep.
Do you know of any, do they get treated, do you think, prophylactically? Do you know?
It depends on if it's determined to be a low exposure or high exposure risk, and then it's up to them to reach out to their provider to go get that. But we haven't had any cases that I know of that have been associated with any individuals that had contact with those cats to this date.
Yeah, it looked like there was a lot of exposures to those cats. That's why I was kind of wondering, expecting more potential human cases, but we haven't seen any, as you said. So just interesting, the number of cats that have shown up positive over the last, let's say, even 2 weeks. I guess we'll see where it goes.
Yep.
Thanks,
we'll see.
Hey, Jeff, this is Brian. We might want to add, on what Pete mentioned there, maybe we ought to throw the link in the chat for the new recommendations for tularemia treatment, which include the post-exposure prophylaxis treatments.
Yep, I can throw that in there.
Might be good to put that in there. So thanks for bringing it up, Pete. Thanks.
Jeff, are those cats that have been testing positive, are those like barn cats and stray cats? Or out like people's outdoor cats?
Yep. Most of those are they're pretty much all outdoor cats. Some of them are, more, I don't want to say feral in nature, but yeah, there are a lot of barnyard cats or cats that people allow to come indoor but go outdoor and hunt and stuff like that. So yeah, they're all have some sort of outdoor exposure.
Okay, any more questions for Jeff? Thank you, Jeff. We'll move on to the TB program.
Hello. The only update I have is regarding the laboratory changes at Nebraska Public Health Lab regarding the construction in the Clarkson Tower and the microbiology laboratory area. So if we have samples coming to NPHL, we do expect an additional 24 to 48 hours for AFB smears, and then final cultures will be reported at 8 weeks instead of 6 weeks, as we will be using ARUP in this time frame. And MTB, rifampin, and PCR testing will continue to be performed in-house. If there's any questions, please reach out to me or the lab, and we can address those for you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Kristen. Tammy, are you on for the STD program?
This is Dennis. I can
Hey, Dennis.
give the update. We're kind of down across the board for STIs, kind of ranging from down a little less than 10% for chlamydia to about 30% decrease for all stages of syphilis. And primary and secondary syphilis were down about 45%. So hopefully that bodes well for the future. And I think this is the first year in about 7 or 8 years that we have seen a decrease in syphilis. So I know a lot of the DIS across the state are happy about that development. And in terms of HIV, we're on pace to be at numbers that were kind of in line pre-COVID, which was kind of in the 80 to 85 range. Last year we had about 138, which is the most that we'd ever had. And that's about all that I have for updates.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
So Dennis, do you have a feel of why syphilis has dropped so dramatically?
No,
I mean,
I haven't seen anything great. Other states had started seeing this a year or two, or some other states
okay.
were starting to see it a year or two earlier.
I guess
so
I'll attribute it to you guys as in your educational program, maybe.
yeah.
Must be, it's working. Whatever's out there is working.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of something that the most impressive thing has been gonorrhea. Gonorrhea has decreased about between 20 and 30% every year since 2021.
That's impressive, yeah.
And the only thing that I know of that is different is that the Neisseria meningitis serogroup B vaccine has cross-reactivity, but I don't know if people get that vaccine enough, to say that it's the reason for that decline.
Yeah, it's hard to say. We have been doing some susceptibility testing with Neisseria gonorrhea, and the other good thing is that we're not seeing, in our testing anyway, resistance to the standard treatments. So good for our area because resistance is a problem in a lot of other areas.
Yeah, we don't want to lose our frontline antibiotics.
No, we're still pretty good here.
Thanks, Dennis. And then we'll finish up here with the lead testing team. Anyone on for lead?
Hello. Hi, I'm Jenna Hohenbogen. I just started as the new epidemiologist in the childhood lead poisoning program about a month ago. So I don't have any updates today, but just wanted to introduce myself. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.
Hi, Jenna. Thank you. Welcome. If there's no more questions or comments about our epidemiology roundtable, I'll just wrap this up with a few notes on the training programs. Gram Stain Challenge, that's going to go out Monday of next week, and then the results will be due Friday of the week after, so the 28th of November, and then I'll send out the results for that. The challenge set, I've got all your responses. I'm going to schedule a review for also next week, I think Wednesday. And then for the challenge set, I did do like individual laboratory write-ups that kind of sections out your process a little bit more than just sitting down and combining everyone's results into one presentation. So if you're going to come to the challenge set review, after I send out your individual results, it'll probably be helpful to have that with you. We can go through and kind of talk about the process. LPX survey. I have the results for the LPXB as well. I'm going to schedule a review the same day I schedule the challenge set review. Since the LPXA results it took them so long to get back to me. I think I'm just going to send those out as a document, and then if you have questions about it, you can bring that to the LPXB review. And we can talk about it if you'd like. Otherwise, expect invitations for all of those things. Is there, and then, yeah, we are going to have a packaging and shipping class. Again, that's going to be December 14th, I believe. I'll have to go back and double check, but I'll send out a reminder. So any questions about training? And if not, that's all we have for today. So the lab we'll give you back some time. Maybe we went over. So, yep. All right. Thanks for attending.